$300,000 on day one. Anyways, we are the home of the 49ers, the NFC champion, almost Super Bowl champion Niners. And they had 7 picks. Well, no, they had more than that. They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, because they had that one extra. Who better to talk about it with than the beat writer for the Niners, or the Athletic, our good friend who joins us each week during the football year. And we expect nothing short of our friend Matt Barrows to come on, and I want grades for every player. Yeah. I want to know how they're going to be as pros.
The entirety of their career.
There is nothing. Now I say this, Matt's probably got to do a grade. I don't want to crap on his content. Matt, forgive me. And by the way, good morning, Matt. How are you?
Good morning. And rest assured, I do not have to put grades on any of these draft picks or the draft class or anything like that. Although I am currently ranking the undrafted guys. They always bring in a handful of undrafted guys, and there's some interesting ones in this class as well.
You know, it's just a thing where we say it kind of tongue in cheek, because of course you're going to talk draft, and of course you're going to want to, oh, well, this was a reach or this wasn't according to whatever. It just, and I'm sure you've done this long enough. We're probably similar on this. It's like the whole thing about like, oh, this is an A. Here's what, like, you don't know. Nobody knows. I would imagine, I'll just bet, because I know they have metrics at the Athletic, I'll bet you draft grade pieces do very, very well. People want to see how good or bad their teams did. I'm not denying that. I'm just saying there's no way of knowing how. I didn't know Debo was going to be this good. I didn't know Tom Brady was going to be that good. I didn't know half of these guys. You look at the all pros. Half of them were nowhere near the first round. So it's just kind of an exercise in futility, I think.
No, I agree. I mean, look how well the 49ers have done in the 5th round, for example, since 2017. You didn't know in 2017 that George Kittle was going to be George Kittle, or Deontay Lenore, or Dre Greenlaw. And you just have to let it play out. You know, sometimes you can, like what the Falcons did at quarterback, when you have the incumbent quarterback who's making a ton of money coming out and saying, oh yeah, kind of was blindsided by that one. I mean, you can cast judgments on those types of situations, but whether someone's going to be good or not, no, everybody is in the dark right now, because we're talking about the future. Yeah. And the future is unknowable.
Well, the one thing that was
like this Ricky Pearsall bust,
about him too, Matt, was, I mean, that whole day leading up, or a couple days leading up, a ton of wide receiver conversation about the 49ers, about Aiyuk, and rumors about Deebo Samuel. Then the 49ers end up drafting one, which kind of led to more rumors. Yet here we are with kind of everybody still around. Did the rumors and what ended up happening surprise you?
The rumors didn't surprise me. I mean, my whole thing going into the draft was, hey, guys, it's going to be a lot like the 2021 draft. You're going to hear a lot about the 49ers trading a wide receiver. Back then, it was Deebo Samuel, who was agitating for a new contract. But it's going to take an awful lot. 49ers are listening, and that's why, you're going to see a lot of stories about it. But it's probably not going to happen. And it was just like that. I mean, there were offers made during the draft for Brandon Aiyuk. They didn't come close to what the 49ers would have required to even consider moving him. The highest was a second rounder. They were looking first to even start the conversation. So, they fielded some phone calls. It didn't come close. It sounds like that they were in contact with Aiyuk throughout the things, sort of their MO. I was talking to Tim Kawakami about this the other day, but they like to be part of every conversation. They like to have phone calls. They like to be on the phone with other teams. They encourage teams calling them and asking about their guy, because it allows them to ask about that team's players, and you learn things. And perhaps that comes into play at the trade deadline. Which players on the other teams are those teams ready to part ways with. So, I mean, it's all about information more than anything. The 49ers kind of open them up to that, and in doing so, it sort of creates this this situation where they're always included in every sort of trade possibility scenario. And they have to live with it. And, but that's been the case for years and years and years now.
Is there wide receivers are notoriously sensitive, diva, that type of thing, and the Niners are no different. Is there a chance, Matt, that if they do return with Aiyuk and Deebo Samuel, that it's something that festers during the season, especially with the Aiyuk contract situation, or are they used to it by now? Is that a media thing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it will. I think this season is still going to be a lot like last season. It's going to be Deebo Samuel, Brandon Aiyuk, Juwan Jennings. Those are the top three guys. And if there's an injury to any of those top three guys, then you're going to start seeing Ricky Pearsall. But I don't think it's going to affect their snap counts, their clout, all that stuff. The great thing about Deebo Samuel and Brandon Aiyuk, they have huge egos. They want to do great. They want big stats, but they really support each other. You see that in their body language after one guy scores. The first guy in the end zone to give him big congratulations is the other receiver. And that's not always the case.
Right.
With wide receivers, big-time wide receivers. But it's just true elation. And I kept an eye on that because I wondered that myself going into the season. Especially with Aiyuk on the rise and him looking for a new contract, and Deebo Samuel having gotten his in the past. They're like brothers out there. They love for each other to do well, and I expect it to be the same. It's 2025. All of this draft was sort of done with an eye toward 2025. That, of course, is when we expect Brock Purdy to get a big contract. He's going to get it, so that's A, going to put a squeeze on the salary cap, and B, it means that the 49ers really have to address this team to one guy. It's going to be Brock Purdy's team, even more so than it is today. What I see is the 49ers parting ways with Deebo Samuel, and your starting wideouts are going to be Ricky Pearsall and Brandon Aiyuk, and Pearsall probably is more like Aiyuk than Samuel, although he does some Samuel things too. But my point is that the chemistry that Purdy has with Aiyuk, you can absolutely envision him having similar chemistry with Ricky Pearsall, and I think that's why he was the pick.
But you're saying that's a year away.
A year away,
Yeah.
or we're talking March of 25.
Sure. Okay.
Gotcha.
So let's get back to Pearsall. I mean, I think you answered it there and why they see him as part of the future, but maybe why him over. There were some other areas of need, certainly for this team, whether it was secondary, safety, corner, O-line help. Why do you think the Niners felt Pearsall ranked that much higher than maybe other opposing linemen, corners, kind of in that same general area?
Yeah, I think there were a lot of linemen picked at that point, and then there was a big gap. Can't remember the name of the next offensive tackle who was taken, the guy from Houston, but it was many picks later. So I think that they saw sort of a talent gap there. And so they thought that another position was probably the right one at pick 31. Cornerback, I mean, we were all thinking it could be cornerback there. Cooper DeJean was still on the board. I forget whether McKinstry was as well.
He was.
That would have been another one. And then you saw the 49ers, of course, use their second-round pick on a cornerback. So, I mean, I think they were looking at their board. They probably had a lot of cornerbacks rated similarly there. My question was why Pearsall over Adonai Mitchell or Ladd McConkey or Keon Coleman, each of whom had maybe a little bit more of one physical trait than Pearsall, and certainly were being kind of touted by the media more highly than Pearsall, who is sort of I'd say a mid-second round pick. And this goes back to Dave's earlier point about whether a draft class gets an A or a B or a C or not. It has to do with how closely it sort of matches what people were kind of set up to think about these players. And Pearsall was very much a second rounder in a lot of people's eyes. In Kyle Shanahan's eyes, he was a first rounder because of what I said. He sort of got that separation, that wiggle that Shanahan likes. I mean, you saw it when he drafted Dante Pettis back in 2018. You saw it when he took Aiyuk 2 years after that. And I think the big difference between Pettis and Pearsall, for example, Pearsall is a tough guy. You see that in how he plays the game, how he sort of attacks tacklers after he has the ball in his hands, things like that. And that was Shanahan's point. That's something that you try to teach anybody who comes through, but boy, it's awfully nice when you don't have to teach that. It comes automatically. And that was evident in Aiyuk as soon as they got him. And they think that it's going to be automatic in Pearsall as well.
Matt Barrows joining us. Hate hearing a scout tell him a player was, for example, not a good second rounder, but a great third rounder. This person always said the only time people talk about rounds is in draft preparation and on draft day. Never during any player's career would this person say, does anyone say a player was picked in the right round the day after the draft? Every player is graded on his playing performance, not his selection round. This person only cared about what a player would be able to do for his team and thought that round talk was the wrong way for a scout to measure his own abilities. It wasn't talent evaluation, but rather round prediction. That was the great Bill Walsh and his philosophy on saying this guy should have been a second rounder or a fourth rounder. And you kind of see that a little bit. And obviously, Matt, when you're doing well, you're a genius. When you're not doing well, you're an idiot. But it feels like John Lynch kind of has that attitude of, well, are we best player available? Are we filling for needs? That depends on who slides to us. And if we like a guy, if we can trade down, great. If not, one of those guys that seems to have at least read what Bill Walsh said.
For sure. I mean, and you see that with the 49ers. A couple of years ago, they took Ambry Thomas, a cornerback, in the third round, and then they took Diamador Lenore, a cornerback, in the fifth round. And one of those guys has done really well, and the other has floundered, and it's not what you would expect from the rounds. That happens time again. I mean, running back, Jordan Mason, undrafted. Trey Sermon, third round, same draft.
Yep.
One guy's on the team. One guy's been booted so far. So that's what I like about how the 49ers operate. After they get here, nobody really seems to be paying too much attention to the round. It's the performance. It's what they're doing on the field. And they've been keeping the right guys because of that. And I would say that Ambry Thomas, a guy I just talked about, Ambry Thomas, Danny Gray, a couple of third rounders from previous years. Those guys are in trouble based on who's come in free agency and this draft. All of a sudden, there are a lot of young or new cornerbacks, and there are a lot of new wide receivers as well. So the 49ers don't give you a long time to sort of get your feet, even if you're a first, second, or a third round pick.
Matt, how about the totality of the draft? We talked a little bit about Pearsall, but, they had several of the picks throughout the couple of days here. What did you think in general? What did they think of their haul they took in over the last couple of days?
Yeah, I mean, those fourth-round picks stand out to me, beginning with Malik Mustafa. I think he's somebody that the fans are going to really like. Just Mr. Energy, kind of toughness, plays safety. He's going to play a lot of special teams as well. He could factor in early. Talanoa Hufanga coming off of that ACL, I think it was on November 19. So that sort of kind of puts him in that, he'll probably be, mostly recovered when training camp starts, but you don't want to push it. So he and Drake Greenlaw could be a couple of guys that start out the season on PUP. I think that's a possibility, in which case you got Jair Brown, you've got George Odom at safety, and then you've got this guy, Mustafa. I think he could be somebody who plays early as a rookie, which has not been the case for the 49ers in recent years. They've got such a veteran team. That roster is so well filled out that rookies have a hard time getting in. But he might be an exception. Isaac Garendo stands out to me because when I watch him run, I think Raheem Mostert. Big guy, sort of runs straight up and down, but really gets up to speed, sort of glides down the field. That style worked really well with Mostert in this offense. It's obviously working really well in this offense that's in Miami for Mostert. And this guy's very similar. I don't know if year one is the year that he makes an impact, but Elijah Mitchell right now is the number 2 running back to Christian McCaffrey. Mitchell's on the last year of his contract. So I think that Garendo could be somebody who kind of shows up in coming years. And then the last third-round pick, Jacob Cowing, is a punt returner. And I would describe him as a little bit more explosive version of Ray McLeod, who is a good punt returner, but never had the big return. No touchdowns, no punt return touchdowns for this team since 2011. That's the biggest drought in the NFL. But this is a guy who he gets a step on you, he's gone. He's a 4.38 guy. Scored a lot of touchdowns at Arizona. So he I think is probably the front runner to be the punt returner of the future.
Matt Barrows with us. Matt, you mentioned the possible future of Deebo Samuel as a reason to grab Ricky Pearsall, and I'm sure you've seen it. CJ Stroud, the wonderful first year, now second year from Houston, was alive on a draft show, just going absolutely bonkers over Ricky Pearsall. Steve Smith, the former Carolina great, again, just singing his praises. Did anything that happened last year, or specifically in the Super Bowl, in your opinion, because I've seen this written too, inform that pick as well, in addition to preparing for the future?
I think it's what I said earlier. It's, which receiver has really kind of bonded well with Brock Purdy. And it's Brandon Aiyuk. And I'm not saying that Deebo Samuel hasn't. He's a different type of receiver, but it's the anticipation that Brock Purdy has works really well with a sharp route runner. These balls are being released well before these guys are making their breaks. So if you can do that consistently, if you can be in the same spot consistently, if you can create space consistently, that's going to link up well with your quarterback. And I think that Pearsall, who basically studied under Brandon Aiyuk early on at Arizona State, has a lot of the same characteristics. So if you've got 2 of those guys on the field at the same time, that's great. I mean, a lot of complaints from the fan base about not going after a tackle and kind of protecting Brock Purdy, and I agree. I mean, I think that's the position that they have to tackle at some point. But another way to sort of protect your quarterback is to allow him to get rid of the football quickly. And if guys are getting open quickly, if guys are getting open consistently, that does the trick as well. And I think that's what this pick was all about.
And just to follow up, and let me put the tinfoil hat on, we're just looking for reasonings behind Ricky Pearsall. You've mentioned it a couple times. Obviously, the Brandon Aiyuk contract situation is top of mind for a lot of people. Even if it was just a small percentage, do you think any part of the pick was like, not placating Brandon Aiyuk necessarily, but maybe making him more comfortable with this team, maybe allowing him to have a little influence? Or is that, again, are we tinfoil hatting there?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say that drafting a wide receiver is making another wide receiver comfortable. And like I said, Brandon Aiyuk and Deebo Samuel have become quite tight over the years. And so bringing in a guy who's eventually going to replace your bud probably isn't great. But again, Brandon Aiyuk knows Ricky Pearsall sort of helped him out when Pearsall was a freshman at Arizona State. So I mean, I get what you're saying. I mean, if it was a tie between 2 players, if they had Ladd McConkey and Ricky Pearsall exactly the same, and they could kind of curry a little favor with Aiyuk about that pick, yeah, I mean, I would for sure. And it certainly elicited the response that they wanted, which was a text to John and Kyle that said, fire pick. Not gonna lie,
Yeah.
fire pick. So everything was positive from Brandon Aiyuk after that selection.
And just to be clear, when he said fire pick, he wasn't saying like release them.
Fire the pick. It was a
it
fire.
Was fire.
Yeah.
And that's the kids. That's how the kids
It's
say
an emoji.
Okay, good.
They don't even say it. They put the emoji.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was
right.
like a small little fire on the
and that means good.
Yes.
Like great
Good.
pick.
Yeah.
Not if they just said sus pick, then
Yeah.
that's kid for
Mid. Right.
Yeah. So fire, just
Fire,
Matt, we have an older audience, so we're just trying to stay with the times.
Oh, I believe you me. Yeah. Right. When we hang up, people are going to say, "Wow, that segment was sick." And that's good. See, that's good.
Exactly.
That means that it was good.
I hope they still say that. Yeah.
I hope so too. Matt, you started by saying you were going to be writing about the undrafted guys that they're also bringing in. There's some interest. So what caught your interest there? That some other names that they're bringing in to see if anybody can make this squad.
Well, running backs, undrafted running backs. This is Bobby Turner, the running backs coach, longtime running backs coach. This is his baby, and he makes. I'm not exaggerating when I say he makes thousands of phone calls from February to March, because he's calling up dozens and dozens of running back prospects, and he's calling them just about every day. And so he gets to know a lot of these guys, and he's been very good. Long track record. Jordan Mason is one of the examples of bringing in guys late in the draft or after the draft who turn out to be really good. And they got a guy from Missouri, Cody Schrader, who led the SEC in rushing last year and played in a zone blocking scheme that's very similar to the 49ers. So he probably leads the list of the undrafted guys. I mean, just a long highlight reel. You can definitely see him if there's a spate of injuries at running back, and nobody wants that. But that's how these guys have gotten on the field in the past, and we're going all the way back to Denver in the Mike Shanahan coach teams. They would have a different 1,000-yard rusher every year, and some of them were undrafted guys, Mike Anderson. So I think that this guy is probably in that long line of Bobby Turner diamonds in the rough that he brings in.
All right, two-parter here. Number one, their second-round pick and seventh-round pick, the Renard Green, the cornerback, and the linebacker they got in the seventh, both Florida State players. And I noticed there were no Florida State players in the roster currently. Do you think that was on John Lynch's mind?
I'm not exactly sure where we're going here.
I'm sorry, Matt. I'm being a goofball. I'm an FSU fan, and I was very excited.
Oh, you're an FSU fan. How are you an FSU fan?
My mom and dad both went to FSU. That's where they met.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So I was born into it. I'm a huge all these years.
Yeah, it's never come up because I would tell you the story of FSU joins the ACC at a time when a young at Barrows.
No, I know where you're going. No,
and FSU would just crush
Tiki Barber.
Each of the ACC teams. We're talking like 42-7, year after year after year, until they come up to Charlottesville one day. Tiki Barber goes off. FSU has a chance to score at the very end, and they keep
they ran the draw
out of the end zone. It was a good call. And a young Matt Barrows leaps with joy and rushes the field. And one of the greatest nights of my life, thanks to your FSU Seminoles.
That's amazing. All these years, I remember exactly where I was when that game happened. The whole thing. And as soon as you, because I remember you went to Virginia all of a sudden, and then as soon as you started in, all I can think of was Tiki Barber, and you were on the field for that. Wow.
Oh yeah, I was knocking over people to get onto the field.
Nice.
Okay, then that's the first part of my question. Yes, of course, John Lynch doesn't care, but always good to have more FSU guys. The second part of my question is I have no idea. I completely forgot my train of thought. It was a good question, but then Matt kind of threw me a curveball with the whole.
That story was
Well,
better.
I would say that both of your FSU guys have a chance to make a mark. I mean, Kyle and John talked about how there are no kind of starting spots open on this roster. It's not exactly true. Third quarter cornerback can be a starting spot if you've got three cornerbacks on the field at the same time. And we know two of the cornerbacks are going to be Charvarius Ward and Diamador Lenore. We don't know who the third cornerback is going to be. It's probably going to be Isaac Yiadom, one of the free agents that they brought in. But I would say that your guy has a pretty good shot if he can turn some heads, and certainly if he can play the nickel spot, which John Lynch said that he's going to get a nice tryout there. He certainly could be on the field early and often as a rookie.
He's the best in the business. Matt Barrows. You find out something, you think you know a guy.
Find something new every time.
One of his happiest moments in life was one of my saddest when I was just a youngster. But you know what? Get back to Cancun, Matt. Enjoy your off season, I hope, and we look forward to talking to you when camp opens.
All right, guys. Anytime. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. God, my oldest guest. Well, I had him on forever.
Kind of just ruined your day, didn't he?
It just brought. I remember exactly where I was, man. We got a break. We're late. When we come back, we'll post mortem the Suns here real quick. Are they firing Frank Vogel?